Let's start with England.
Okay.
New captain.
Yeah.
Marrow, captain. It's the obvious choice, right? I look at Marrow, and he's a player that leads by example in terms of effort and one of England's best players, but he has a lot to work on. He's been a brilliant player for many years, right? And there's Eddie Jones questioned his leadership. Steve Borthwick's now flipped that on his head and made him captain. When you look at taking the captaincy away from Jamie George, and that's probably, why have you taken the captaincy? Why have you taken the captaincy away from Jamie George? I think it's because his position might be under a bit of pressure, because you have to be out and out first choice, I think, to be named as captain. B, what happened in the autumn? Is it a reactionary piece from Steve because Jamie plays 50, 55 minutes, comes off, and then we lose the game? But then you ask the question, well, Marrow was on. And Marrow is probably one of the captains on the field when we lose those games in the autumn. So where was his leadership then? But then you look around the England squad, and I'm not saying this harshly, who's putting their hand up to be captain of that team? Who's definitely first name on the team sheet in their position? Like there's a few, but there's not. And then you compare that to leadership. So you've got a very small pool. People will say Genji. Genji plays 60 minutes, then they bring Finn Baxter on or another prop. You look down the squad, Ben Earl, he hasn't really been captain much, and all that stuff is his position under pressure with the way Tom Willis is playing. So Marrow's the standout of, I think, all the players that you're going to go, I'm hanging my hat on him as a captain and leader. And he is one of England's most important players, the physicality that he brings. But the question is, can he lead a team from an emotional driver point of view, an intellect point of view? He learnt off one of the greatest second rows to ever play for Scotland in Jim Hamilton at giving penalties away, and he gives a load away. So he's got to sort that out. But I don't know who else there could be.
That's the thing. I think clearly that's the decision from Steve in terms of whether Jamie's place is guaranteed or not. That's we'll soon find that out. But probably coming off at 50, 55 minutes for your captain isn't ideal when you're going into those crunch moments and big decisions need to be made. Do you take 3 points? Do you kick to the corner? Do you speed the game up, etc., etc.? And you look around that squad, I think you make a great point, Goody, that you can't really pick out anybody else. So I think Marrow is the choice, but it is a really tough. I think it's a difficult one because Marrow's got a lot to contend with. He's calling the lineouts, got to get through a lot of his work. And it's kind of like then it's like, okay, well, how much work is going to be on his plate? How much media interviews is he going to have to do during the week? How much extra analysis? How much extra, sitting down with press, etc., etc. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Marrow. But look, he's clearly experienced and he's clearly been there, done it, worn the t-shirt several times. So it's quite a difficult start for him as well in terms of in Ireland away, and but I think he was the obvious choice when you were thinking about changing.
Yeah,
Jim, your thoughts on him?
Standout choice, I think, and I've been up and down about Marrow as England captain.
But as a captain or because?
Well, I think that England limited when it comes to leaders. That is clearly obvious in what you see, and I don't know whether that's how Steve Borthwick makes up his team and what's come out of the transition of all the different coaches and Eddie Jones and how he made up the England team and it was about Eddie Jones and they've not brought any through. I don't really know, but systemically there's an issue in England when it comes to leaders. And again, thinking back to the old days in 2003, just for an example, England were littered with leaders. You literally could have had 1 to 15 who could have captained England, whereas now, and yes, the profile of the team is a lot younger, but I think what you said, Biggs, I think we can both agree. Jamie George, well, he's injured now, so whether or not he actually plays in the first game, I think he has more benefit off the bench. And we'll talk about the games, and I think it's such a key element of a player to be able to come off the bench and make a difference. England's biggest issue has been players off the bench, and they've not had the experience to come on. So I actually think they shift. I think Theo Dan starts at hooker, bit more power. And you've got Jamie on the bench where you've got that experience, and this form's not been amazing. Like we've kind of spoke about that.
I think when you were speaking then, Jim, I think you make a brilliant point because a big thing when you come off the bench, I think, is a lot of people sort of come off the bench and think they have to add loads and they have to create something or they have to do something. Quite often, when you come off the bench, if you can make no errors, that's a really solid foundation going into the last 15, 20 minutes of a game where things are tight. If you can just be accurate, not give away penalties, not force things, and don't actually make any errors, you've got a heck of a chance of closing a tight game out, which is probably what let England down a little bit in the autumn.
There you go.
So people coming on.
I love the way you looked at Jim when you said, "Don't give penalties away."
Yeah, but in the autumn, but also you think back to the World Cup, the semi-final against South Africa as well. So that's one positive that I'm looking at with a Jamie George who can come on, hit his line out, is very good in the scrum and is a calm
There's very few
voice.
errors with Jamie, isn't
very
there?
very few errors. And I think with Marrow, his big Achilles heel has been his discipline. So we've kind of spoken about and gone over that. And I do say this genuinely, the latter stages of my career where I was more of a leader, but when I was captain of Gloucester, when I had that captaincy, you're very conscious then of giving away needless penalties. Like, you go into the game in a different mental headspace because of everything you've said, everything that comes with leadership and being a captain. I was a better player for that because you feel that sense of responsibility.
Basically, without it, you're an idiot, right?
Well, without it, you go in with why you picked. Well, back in it, like enforcer, disruptive, like all of them different things that Marrow has in his game. And he's got limitations around his carry. But you watch Marrow, he's effective in every part of the game that he's involved in, around defence, maul, disrupting the line out. And I think with the captaincy for Marrow, I think he wants it.
Yeah.
And I think he actually wants it for all the things that you've kind of mentioned that he has to do with the media that comes around it. He's changing his agency, his brand, all of the things actually that I enjoy about other sports, which I want rugby to be. But I think the biggest thing for England, and we'll get into England and the English clubs, is this is I'm going to say a seminal Six Nations moment for them because of everything that's going on with the RFU. I know the Sale beat you boys at the weekend, but apart from that, Northampton look good in spots, but there's a big, massive gap between the French teams, or the good French teams, your Leinsters and stuff like that. And, I just don't know where England are. I really don't. So they're changing their captain.
Yeah, it's an interesting point around the Six Nations and obviously we've said it before, we start in, with the hardest games and then they go descend in order. Start with Ireland, France, then Scotland, and then Italy, then Wales. But you're right. My issue, some of the best captains, you got certain ones that lead by example on the field, and Marrow does that around the park in how he plays. I hope the captaincy helps his discipline, and he has to be more conscious of how close he can get to the edge. Like you said about how when you were captain, it made a big difference that way. But also, and we've all been in changing rooms where your captain is the energy giver and the guy that really gives you proper messages and gets you going emotionally and all that stuff. And one thing I question around, is Marrow that man to do that? And it's like you've said with Steve. Steve ain't the man to do that, is he? Steve's, in your opinion, Steve's not the man to front all the media stuff. So Marrow's not either when you hear him speak and listen to him.
True.
And he's, from what I've heard around it, he's obviously very driven himself, but he's never always been a collective team player, has he?
Yeah, just on that, Goody, can I just jump in on that? Because I think it is important for the England fans because of the reasons that you've mentioned. I don't know whether I mentioned it on here, but you've got Steve as the front man. I mentioned about Alex Sanderson, how good he was after the game for Sale and just how charismatic he is. You think where the game is now, because it'd be interesting to hear what you think on this because you had Alan Wynne-Jones for so many years, but the shift now around the captaincy and who teams go for, there's almost feels like they are not just the captain on the field. Like Anton Dupont, he's an icon in France now. Like he's a celebrity when he's there. You think of like the days of like you Richie McCaws. I know Dan Carter wasn't captain, but these lead people within your teams. Sia Khaleesi, he's an icon in South Africa. Like Ardy Surveyor, if he's captain, who else has been captain for the All Blacks as well? So you've got Ardy Surveyor.
Barrett.
Scott Barrett. Scott Barrett. So very different with the Scott Barrett.
Sam Cane.
A little bit different with him as well. So maybe he's a bad example. But the ones that I've given, like your Dupont, your Sia Khaleesi's, they are icons of a nation. They are not just rugby players. They're more than that. England, for me, they almost feel like an unfollowable team. So and I know that there's a thing around England that people don't like England because it's English and the arrogance that come with it. But when you get someone to come on TV and talk about how they're going to play and sell the game, they have a responsibility to. I don't care what anyone says. Jurgen Klopp, front man of Liverpool, right? He wasn't just the coach. He was selling the fucking team. Jose Mourinho, whatever team, whether you like him or loathe him, he's not only the coach, he's
box office.
He's selling it not just to the fact, he's selling the game commercially as well to the sponsors. And the list can go. I can give you loads of examples of different teams. I think England have got a massive massive void in that part of what they're doing.
Do you not think, though, because the age demographic of the group, that will come back again? You look at the team that perhaps when Eddie Jones took over, when they were successful, you had your Ford, your Farrell, your Marrow, your Dylan Hartley, your guys like this, and I think there will be, and I think there are some superstars in that England team which over the next few years will potentially get to that sort of stage.
If they're allowed to be.
If they're allowed to be. But I think, I know what you mean, but also you look at say like your Antoine Dupont, your Alan Wynne-Jones, your Sia Khaleesi's, but you look how much help they've got on the field around them.
Yeah.
And you could, I mean, that Springbok team.
Sia goes off after 60, doesn't he?
That's what I mean, but you could almost pick anyone in that Springbok team to be captain. When Wales was successful, Alan Wynne had the likes of, Jamie Roberts, Jonathan Davis, Liam Williams, these guys.
Yourself?
Well, yeah, I pitched in.
I was waiting for Rob to say it. Rob was going to say Gareth Anscombe. He was going to say Gareth Anscombe, though. Out of order.
But Dupont, he's got, obviously I know Olivon's injured, but he's got Olivon, Ramos, Intermac,
Winnie Antonio.
These types of guys. So it's like, almost the pressure is off the captain on the field, and it's about then how do you, like you said, brilliant job of selling the game and et cetera. But I do think it's a huge help if you've got 4, 5, 6 players who are real senior leaders, been around the block, know what to do in the right positions, and I think that's obviously very, very important.
That is the big problem. So you go across the team, and who else is it? So you'd say Ollie Lawrence gets picked in the centres every day of the week at the minute in terms of what's out there. But then you saw him, go down like he'd been shot in Northampton the other week, and then give a wink and all that stuff. Who else is there that's a starting out-and-out player? Marcus Smith, you can't make him captain, but there's all the questions around him. Alex Mitchell as a 9. Everyone seems to think that in England, a forward needs to be captain, or it gives you that driver as if a forward captain. So when you're looking around, who else is there? Yeah. And that's something that Steve definitely needs to work on. And when you say Steve work on it, he needs to work on it himself as well, allowing leaders to grow and not being sort of held back and treated not like schoolboys, but you can see sometimes they're ruling with an iron fist, and off the back of that, let the players grow and leaders will come to the fore as well. I mean,
obviously, Owen Farrell was captain for quite some time as well, wasn't he? In terms of some successful periods as well for England. Yeah. But it's really interesting. And I think that conversation links into a little bit in what they're going to do in that 10 position as well. Do you move Freddie Stewart to the wing for argument's sake? Do you put Marcus back to fullback? Do you give Finn Smith this opportunity to really go and prove himself due to Furbank's injury, or do you give Marcus the keys and say this is your team and almost grow him into what we've just spoke about, grow him into what George Ford had at the start of his career or Owen Farrell had at the start of the career, almost making the team his own, which then will help someone like Marrow if you decide on your 9 and 10 for argument's sake. And at the minute, if they decide that it's Alex Mitchell and Marcus Smith, and they say, right, this is our half-back partnership, then that then gives them a chance. That's what Wales did back when they were successful. They made sure that they knew that, right, this is our team, and this is the team that we're going to play for the next X amount of time, which allows you time in the seat, allows you to make it your team and grow and have confidence and lead the way that you want and help the captain out that way. So that's what I think. I'm not quite sure what you boys think, what they're going to do with 10.
I think they've got to go Marcus Smith, and I love Finn Smith, and he's playing exceptionally well. Or you put Marcus on the bench. And start Finn. I don't believe in putting Marcus to fullback and then moving Freddie Stewart to the wing. You're playing 2 players out of position.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To then put Finn in at 10. So I'm a big believer. Back Marcus. Finn's right on his heels, but Marcus needs to have the backing. He was England's best player in the autumn. Yeah. In every game he played until Steve took him off. And so, the question is, you can move Marcus Smith to fullback later in the game if that's how the game's evolving, but don't make the change for making the change sake. But I do believe you've got to back Marcus. But Finn's couldn't be playing any better, could he?
I think as well, Freddie Stewart, and I know obviously it was a very difficult game for Leicester yesterday out in Toulouse, but I actually think Freddie Stewart's shown over the last few weeks, probably since the autumn, shown a lot more going forward than he probably has in the last 12 months. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I remember the day Furbank got injured. Saints played over the Bulls, didn't they?
Yeah,
and he did his shoulder, and it was the game was before Leicester played the Sharks. So I'd watched that. I'd done the corporate at Leicester, and I walked across the pitch because I was going for comms. I said to Freddie Stewart, I said, Furbank's done his shoulder. Big game, you're getting picked. And he was like, that fucking don't tell me that, Goody. My head will go. And then, but from that, he has.
So you're taking credit.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. You're welcome, Freddie. But he naturally said, don't tell me that. That's, get out of my head. But he has risen to the challenge now of not just because Furbank's injured, but just how he's playing. He's been head and shoulders above everyone, literally and metaphorically, and deserves to get the 15 shirt and start there.
I don't know what you guys think, but I think that England backline's got everything in it. If you look at potentially what will start against Ireland, probably Mitchell, Marcus Smith, Lawrence Slade, Freeman, Freddie Stewart, maybe Roebuck on the wing.
Yeah, Roebuck or Murley. I think he'll go Roebuck for size. Roebuck was good.
And he's great in the air as well, Roebuck. So you look at that team and it's got pace, power, intelligence, spark. And you just think if that England pack can provide a platform, there's no and Steve gives them the license to go and express themselves. There's no reason why England can't win in
Grand Slam. There you go. Biggs has said it. Grand Slam.
I don't know.
You're not feeling that, Jim, no?
I just don't know with England. That's what it feels like. I some of the selections, like Ben Spencer not being
how's he not in
ahead of Jack Van Portfleet?
That's got to be more than a rugby thing.
It must be.
Jack Van Portfleet, who I love, is a great bloke. Harry Randall brings something different off the bench, but Ben Spencer can do that Harry Randall kind of style player as well. He's quick. He's
best kicking nine.
Yeah, best kicking nine, which was always a big thing for Steve, by the way, in terms of box kicking
and
Wigglesworth stuff. Yeah, and Wiggy. But I think there's a personal issue there between something that's happened at Saracens when Ben Spencer left to go to Bath, and Wiggy was there, and Steve, and that link then. And all that stuff. Whether it's true or not, I don't know.
Oh God, say allegedly then. Just
allegedly. I'm not saying that this has happened, but
there must be something in that.
There's got to be something in it somewhere.
You can't watch Ben Spencer.
He's playing too well.
He's playing way,
and his character. You know him. He's a nice kid. You speak to anyone. He's a lovely kid.
Maybe something to do with the Dags. He's got these dogs, hasn't he? That are banned now.
I did laugh on. I think everything you just said about Ben Spencer being an absolutely wonderful player, but I did laugh on Saturday evening when they played Leinster.
He had a bit of a stinker, yeah.
Well, no, not so much. It was just the one phase of play where I think it was 26-21 to Leinster, and Bath had a 5 metre tap penalty. Didn't tap it. Yeah. Scrum penalty.
Yeah.
Kick to halfway. Knock on from the line out, another scrum. Ben O'Barno gets second yellow, red card, kick to the corner, score, game's gone. Next thing you know, it's 47-21.
So Steve knew what was happening, what was coming, and he loves Benno, basically. Benno's his boy. But Dan Cole not in the squad, just to run through some of the headlines out of that. I mean, when you time's up, your time's up. But they've got an issue at tight head at the minute. Not massively. But they've not got a huge amount of talent to choose from, with all due respect. They've got young lads coming through.
They haven't got experience. Dan Cole was the experienced player, wasn't he? Joe Hayes has been getting picked ahead of him at Leicester on form. Asher Opoku for sure.
Yeah.
How good was he yesterday?
He's brilliant. He's the future.
Yeah.
Fucking arms on him, right? And he can scrimmage both sides. Will Stewart. And you're not a fan of Will Stewart's, are you, Jim?
No, I think he's good.
That's a no. When you go...
you can't... It's harsh to say that. It's not about not being a fan. Okay, yeah. I see England as...
I think he played very well during the autumn. And he started to
I agree.
Well.
I agree, actually.
But it's because we've had... Coley's got 464 caps or something stupid now.
Do you remember when I tried to retire Coley 5 years ago? And he wouldn't talk to me. 5 years ago. And he wouldn't talk. I played with Coley. Like, we were trashing houses together when we were kids. And now he won't talk to me because I tried to retire him because I said he was fucked. And hey, who's laughing now, Coley? You're multi-millionaire.
So where do we think they finish, England? If we're saying now pre-Six Nations, where do they finish?
I genuinely, Biggs, I haven't got a clue. I think they're the hardest team out of all of them to call. I'm going to say they've got France at home, have they?
Ireland away, France at home, Scotland at home, Italy at home, Wales away. Grand Slam.
I think they finished... I can't say. Fourth.
I think it's third or fourth. Third or fourth.
If I'm going with my gut, I'm going to say fourth. But they've got it in them. You look at the game against South Africa, how they've played against Ireland, parts of the Autumn Nations
three games
series.
at home. Three games
would
at
they,
home.
Would they class? Let's go. If they lost to France and Ireland, which is certainly no embarrassment by any stretch of the imagination, and won the other 3 games, would England, off the back of the autumn and the run they're on, would they class that as a successful campaign?
I don't think so. I think if you're England and everything that they've got with the resources and the issues they've got off field as well, I think you put that into the mix. It's important. I think Steve's under a lot of pressure.
So you think losing to France and Ireland probably isn't good enough
I think losing at home.
If we lose to Italy, lose to France, lose to Scotland, it's P45 time for Steve.
Well, what are you basing France being so good on? And I'm saying,
do you watch them in the autumn?
Well, yes, I did. I know they beat the All Blacks just at home.
I think you look at who's going to.
Yeah, I know they've got Dupont, but I'm talking about like over the last few years with France, they've kind of under-delivered really what you'd expect from a team.
Yeah, I don't think that
like that.
Obviously, they had the Grand Slam in 22. I think it was 22. It was obviously. That quarterfinal could have gone either way. They've beaten the All Blacks. The last 3 times they've played the All Blacks, they've beaten them.
Yeah.
I think you look at who are the 2 form teams in Europe right now.
England and no.
Obviously,
clubs.
Obviously Leinster and Toulouse.
Leinster and Bordeaux.
Yeah.
And Toulon.
You look at who makes up that French team. 75% Bordeaux and Toulouse.
Yeah.
And they've got probably the best halfback pairing. I think if not, but certainly in the world.
How's your mate Baptiste Serran not in?
This is what I was going to say is you look at the strength in depth that French rugby has got. So let's take that scrum half position. So obviously, Dupont is number 1. Everyone else is playing for a space on the bench. So you go Luku, who's on absolute fire for Bordeaux. Le Garrick, who's a world-class operator. So even if you lose 2 scrum halves, France, you just called Baptiste Serran in, who's been on absolute flames for Toulon this year.
Didn't want it like last night, though, did he?
No,
got a little bang on the head. He's like, no.
The same for 10. You've got probably the best 10 in the world in terms of Intermac.
And then Matthew Jalibert.
But you lose him, and you play Jalibert. You lose Jalibert, you put Ramos to 10, and it's like, they've just lost Olivon.
Yeah.
So you put Francois Crowe in, or you play Gelange. So where do you actually lose? That's what I'm basing France on being really. I think the Ireland game will be a really tough match for them. But I just think even in the centres at the minute, you've lost obviously Dante.
Dante's gone. Ficou's out. Yeah.
But then you think, okay, well you've got Barassi from Toulouse, and I was speaking to Sean Edwards about him, and he said, well, if you're starting for Toulouse or if you're in the Toulouse team, you must be a half decent player.
Yeah.
Emilien Galton from Pau, brilliant player. Deportier from Bordeaux, who's carving up. So you just think, well,
the best player.
How can you
the
lose?
best centre is that Noah Nene from Dax and Brody.
That's the story, isn't it? Yeah.
The big story broke last week around it, and I'm looking at he's on loan from Stade Francais, and I'm like, why aren't you pulling him back from being on loan? You're 13th in the table, you're getting fucking hosed every week. And this kid's ripping it up in Pro D, and he's in the French squad. So we digressed. But France are away to Ireland and away to England, which might be their sort of stumbling block.
Well, you say that drew with Italy at home last year.
I do think I think they're in a different place now to this time 12 months ago.
Yeah, there was hurt from the World Cup.
I just think they've just got so much strength in depth. The power that they can produce up front. Miafu for Toulouse yesterday was just ridiculous. Flamand is just, you just.
We'll say it then. England are fucked. Say it. You say it.
I think if I was a betting man, I would bet on France winning at Twickenham, but I don't know the Dublin one. You look at that Ireland team. I think they'll be hard pushed in Dublin, but I just think the strength and depth that France have. I think they have to start. Them and Ireland have to be the 2 teams.
So I'm going to ask you. You're close to it. So first 2 games for England. Do they win or lose, or? So you think they can beat Ireland? Maybe. Do you think that's a winnable game because of the history they've got?
I looked. I did think they could win it. I looked at the Ireland squad this morning, and I just thought the experience in that squad.
Dan Sheehan back makes a massive difference.
Yeah. We don't know how it's going to be without Andy Farrell. It's the first time this has happened for a while. So
is Tyke Furlong fit?
So he's been.
It's a big one for them.
England are going to sneak it, boys.
I think. Yeah, I think France win at Twickenham, and I think Ireland probably win in Dublin.
And Scotland, so yeah.
Wooden spoon.
Oh, fuck knows, lads.
So
I'm
what are
gonna-
we saying with France then? What are we saying? Where do we think France will finish? Let's go. Let's do a prediction. Yeah,
So where's the France-Ireland game?
that's
Ireland.
In Dublin.
In Dublin. I think it goes Ireland, then France, then England, then Scotland, then Italy, then Wales.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan.
No. I wouldn't. I think obviously clearly the Wales game is a huge game in Italy, isn't it? But
Yeah.
that'll probably decide that place. But
Jim's wooden spoon.
I don't disagree. I think that's not a bad shout. I think it'll be. You've almost got three categories in the sense. You've got probably France, Ireland,
In that order
England,
you go in?
Scotland. I'm going. Possibly Ireland because the game is in Ireland. I think
Can't say
Ireland,
possibly.
France.
You got to go.
I'm
1
going
to
to go.
5.
I'm going to go Ireland, France. If Sione Tuipulotu was fit, I would have said
He's gone.
Scotland at third.
He's gone.
I think England, Scotland. I've got to back Wales. I've got to go fifth. I've got to go Wales. I've got to give them something. And then
Toby's
Italy
back.
to finish up.
Falatau's back. Yeah.
Isn't
James?
Falatau 49 or not?
Yeah. But Gatsy's looking to the future, so he didn't pick Anscombe,
yeah.
but he's picked 40-year-old Falatau.
So you want my prediction?
I do want your prediction. Yes, please, James.
I think France win it. Off the back of, even though I said that about France, Biggs has sold me the glory and the glitz and the glamour of that team. And you know I'm a DuPont fan. And
France win it.
France win it. I think they win in Dublin, which I'm throwing Joe Smith's cats amongst Andy Farrell's pigeons. France, Ireland.
So Ireland are going to beat Scotland up there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know. Scotland third, England. I think Italy will run a few teams close like they have done. I think they're good. I think Manicello's out as well, which
Big
isn't
blow
great
for
for
them,
them. Yeah, big blow. And Wales are in a mess at the minute. Sorry, Biggs, and we can talk about the squad in a minute.
Yeah.
Double wooden spoon for Wales.
Is that what it is, Andrew?
It
Why'd
will
you
be.
have to put the double at the beginning?
Well, it's two back to
Well,
back.
I mean,
isn't it?
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah,
Factually
I know.
wrong, in fairness.
Yeah.
Pod.
Rugby pod.